Welcome to Laptop Radio. Today's topic is providing real-world functionality to NFTs and developing digitally native identities. We have Ivan Ravlich, CEO of Hypernet Labs with us. Hello, Ivan. How are you?
Hey, it's great to be here, Michelle. Thanks for having me.
I found out that you went to Stanford. How was that?
Oh, that was probably some of the best time of my life was at Stanford. I was there from 2011 to 2017 for
Oh,
my master's and most of my PhD.
why don't you tell us about yourself or your story?
Yeah, a bit of background about me. Before I ended up at Stanford, I was a chemical engineer and a material scientist. I did a lot of work in biofuels like carbon monoxide capture and turning into ethanol, new types of ceramic body armors. It produced new types of titanium. I ended up at Stanford for aerospace engineering to pursue really my love for space travel. And so I did my master's and most of my PhD there, focusing on high energy plasma physics for in space propulsion, plasma rockets. About most of the way through the PhD, I got bit by the bug for blockchain and Web3. And I've been following it for years and saw that it was really starting to happen and what you could do with that technology. And I had to jump on board. So I left my PhD at Stanford to start Hypernet.
Awesome. When did you first heard about Bitcoin or even blockchain?
Bitcoin, I think it was 2011. It was 2011. I was in New Zealand before this and coming to Silicon Valley, to Stanford, and being exposed to the wider like tech industry and where everything's happening. That was my first exposure to Bitcoin. Some buddies of my mind were mining it on their laptops, and it was fun to explore it. But it wasn't until about 2016 where I dove into more of what it meant to have smart contracts and how you can have programmable logic that's going to be executed no matter what happens. That is where it really hit me hard that this is where the future is going to be.
Awesome. And Hypernet Labs, what is the company? What does it do?
Yeah, we started the company to really help transition Web 2 companies to Web 3. How can I make the technology easier for people to start to adopt, to drive that adoption? Because as we know, this technology is groundbreaking and foundational, but we need to have that onboarding and on-ramp and application use cases for traditional industries to start entering into the space. And we're already seeing that happen today.
In a lot of the crypto space, they don't like KYC and digital identity because people want to remain anonymous because cash provided that. With cash, you can be anonymous, but with blockchain, you could be tracked or half tracked. Some of your identities could be reviewed. And then at the same time, if without KYC, there could be money laundering and other criminal activities. What is your view on that?
Yeah, I can also give a bit of background about the framework that we're thinking about more functional NFTs and digitally native identities as a whole. What we really believe with Web3 in particular is you get a lot of the benefits of instantaneous value transfer, the ability to offload a lot of the trust to the blockchain itself. You don't have to rely on third-party intermediaries, but this does open things up because it is fully open. There is the ability for anyone to participate, which is one of the greatest things about Web3 and blockchain itself. But when we start to think about the industry in the context of, okay, if traditional financial institutions want to start leveraging DeFi, or if your general company, insert name here, that you love to use their products for, they're not very comfortable with that level of anonymity because you don't know if you're funding terrorism or if you're putting money into who's on the other end of the transaction. One of the things that the industry needs to be very focused on, and also the policymakers, is how can we still retain what Web3 is, where you own yourself and you own your privacy and your data and you're in control of who you are and what you do online. How do you retain that, but build in these levels of checks and balances? If somebody wants to create a fully open permissionless DeFi protocol, they can. Or if somebody wanted to create a protocol for DeFi that's more permissioned and gated to certain actors, how do you build an identity solution to service that use case that still retains some level of privacy and anonymity on chain? And that's where I think the industry needs to be focused on, because it could very easily become what Web 2 is, where you're no longer who you are online.
I love what you said. There are a few identity projects out there like Civics, Auron, and a bunch of others, right?
Yep.
What distinguishes yours from the others?
With our on-chain protocol itself, When you go through one of these modular identity flows, it can be built on itself. What we've launched with so far is a full verify your email, do the KYC flow, scan your driver's license, do the face liveness check. What we do on the back end, once all of those checks are done, then we issue a non-transferable NFT to that crypto wallet. That NFT is non-transferable, so that way you can't just send it around everywhere. But encoded in the on-chain metadata of that NFT are basically ones and zeros about what checks were done and did they pass or not. Now that you have this identity native to your crypto wallet, you can go straight to a smart contract, you can go to a company, and anyone can look at that wallet and see that you hold one of these Hypernet IDs, and then the totally hashed, anonymized checks that were done on you can be read directly natively on the chain. You don't have to talk to any third-party servers or get some identity attestation after the fact. Just straight on chain, look at the NFT. Does it have the right ones and zeros that match your filter of country code and what checks were done on this ID? And then it's all done and ready to transact inside of that protocol. It's all native on chain.
Awesome. And could that NFT, if it's public on a marketplace or in a wallet, could that be copied and could someone else use that NFT?
No. So this is what's one of the hallmarks of the design here is around how do I ensure that there are transfer restrictions in place, that not anyone can just come and transfer that NFT or list it in a marketplace. And what's inside that NFT, again, is not your personal data. It's not like someone can come in and see like, oh, this is Michelle and she's engaging with these protocols and all that. It's just what checks were done. The NFT can't be faked. It has to come from the right smart contract to even issue that NFT. And if that person ever turns up on any of these ongoing sanctions lists or checks, that NFT can be subsequently burned. That way, if something does come up in the system, that NFT's access can be revoked entirely from that wallet.
Does the company track all the sanctions lists?
Yeah, what's happening on the off-chain components here is we're doing the checks on the back end. We use a variety of third-party partners that actually do the processing themselves. We're doing sanctions list screening, like negative adverse media, all those types of stuff are going on in the background on a daily basis. That is the off-chain component. And if there is a hit, then there's a review process to see like, what can we do with that ID? Does it need to be burned, or is there a way to request more data from that end user to rectify the situation? What's one of the awesome things about how we've thought about this ID, because this is all very evolving space, what things are important and what checks are important to different industries and companies are very different. If you wanted to be able to do like, oh, this person accredited investor, or can this person participate in this local regional offering? On our back end, we can build in as many of these checks and bits with any real plug and play third-party providers that make sense for these industries. When we think about these other add-ons about the reporting, the ability to publish these reports for any of the clients that are actually using the ID, it really comes down to what the clients need and also what the end user has opted into about sharing specific data with the end clients. So that is the aspect that's off-chain, and the reporting and what data gets passed where is in the hands of the end user and whether they want to interact with specific clients that require that.
And also, what are some of the other functionality of NFTs that pertain to identity?
I've been thinking about this for a while now. There's like a dual nature to NFTs. One, there is being able to attribute identity to something or someone. In the case of the Hypernet ID product that we were just discussing, that's using an NFT to attribute identity to a crypto wallet. But you can also have NFTs that are the identity of other types of digital assets, whether they're tickets to a concert, whether they are your membership to an online community, whether they are representing your carbon credits and your footprint. There's the creativity that can come into something like this. It really is endless. And where we've situated our protocol and our framework for creating functional NFTs, it has left that up to the community and the end users of what to engage with on the protocol level and how to build these NFTs to be functional. If you wanted it to be purely for art, you can have the same standard stuff that you see in all the marketplaces that deal in NFT artwork. But if you wanted maybe to have this as a redeemable perk for, oh, like you're a member of my awesome social club and you get access to specific tickets and use the NFT to claim those, All of this type of functionality can be built into them. And it's really going to be up to the people that are using the protocol and the creative minds that are behind what you can actually do with NFTs. I really feel like we've just scratched the surface.
What is your ideal partner? How does that look like?
Yeah, so we built this so that way a Web2 company that doesn't even have like very many developers can come in and start to leverage NFTs and Web3 for their specific offering. We've been building the product to be serviced by a marketing team in a Fortune 500 company, or maybe you're a scrappy artist that wants to get your music NFTs out the door. We've built this platform to be easily used by those types of end users and customers. Now, we do also have a Web2 style SDK that people can plug into for a minting engine. And that really comes down to what level of technical expertise the end client has. But we really want this to be accessible to everyone from marketers through to hardcore Web2 engineers.
Awesome. And what are some of the challenges when creating the products that you have faced?
Oh, I think this is something that is very common amongst a lot of the people who are building products in Web3. It really comes down to the user experience. How do we ensure that the onboarding of new users that might not be Web3 native, educating them about what a wallet is? Do they want the wallet to be custodial? Should the wallet be fully owned by them? What does it mean to have a wallet and to actually get into the ecosystem is, like, I think, the major challenge of the entire industry. And there are some amazing companies that are like making leaps and bounds in that user experience. And we like to think we're one of them. And it really comes down to how do we bring the masses in, because Web3 technologies are awesome and they're impactful, but we just need to start funneling people in. And how can we do that in a way that still keeps Web3 what it is, which is this decentralized, permissionless ecosystem that anyone can enter into? And how do we make that easy? That's going to be the largest challenge for the industry.
Do you believe that with digital identity and functional NFT, do you think that it would create a social credit system in the future, especially if we add in scores? Because currently Web3 is permissionless, is decentralized. But I feel like if we add on to digital identity, there are some fear that we could create a social credit system as a result of that, because then everyone would be tracked.
Especially with blockchain, because it is like you can see the transactions that are happening there. There really is that the bad future that we could enter into. And I think a lot of people feel that, okay, this is how the industry is and this is how it should always be. And that we'll take that for granted. But really, it's up to the people that are building here and now and the people that will be coming into the Web3 ecosystem in the next couple of years, whether they're regulators all the way through to entrepreneurs that are coming through places like Stanford, to really shape what that looks like. Because with any technology, there is the potential for the bad future. And it's up to the people who are really building in the space, that are building and shaping like what's happening, to ensure that the stewarding of the technology is done correctly. That's where I think the real importance lies, is not in, oh, can this happen? It's more of how can we as an industry and as builders and as people that are bringing products that are going to delight the masses into Web3, how do we still keep those core tenets of not going to that place? It's going to be up to the people that are building now.
I want to Web to allow efficiency, and we could buy shoes online and have them deliver really fast.
Mm-hmm.
And we could go places without taking hours getting a taxi. However, our data could be sold, and only a few people own 4 or 5 companies. What would you like change in Web3, in your personal opinion?
The future I see that would be the good future is one where the ownership of who you are and what you do online is solely in your hands. Where if you want to buy some shoes and you love shoes and you want the recommendation or the marketing to hit you that there's a new shoe that you love to enjoy and consume, that should be up to you to decide whether you would like that or not. but how do you build it where your privacy and your data is controlled in the way that you need it to be, that you're respected? I do see a future, and we need to build towards this because I think we're still a ways away, of where you truly own your life log of who you are. And based on what kind of services or products you want to consume, you will need to give some level of insight if that company needs it. How do we build a system where those insights that you're giving aren't actually exposing who you are? All this data that you're generating about your life are not just digital exhaust or being captured in someone's server somewhere to sit there and analyze all day long and to profit off of you. But how do you make it so you're the one who's profiting off of it, whether it's the new products you want to consume, or maybe it is even selling your data. I don't know. I think it really comes down to that, where we can shift the power into the hands of the end user and really cut out a lot of the third parties that are exchanging and doing what the Web2 companies are today. How do we make it so blockchain is controlling that, so we have a trustless layer that's able to purvey this, and you can trust that it's going to happen the way you want it to happen, but the power is in your hands as the end individual and person. That's the future that I really want to see happen, and it's going to be a lot of people building a lot of awesome products to make that happen a reality.
I always feel like identity is related to privacy and security. And I think you mentioned some of these just previously. I always imagine a protocol where it's interoperable with other chain, because with blockchain, the protocol has always been fat. With the identity layer, I think there could be a privacy layer and a security layer. And the privacy layer could allow me, when I go to a club, to just show my year of birth instead of everything. And I could.
Why do they need to know where you live, you know?
Exactly. And then with security, I could close the door after I opened it. Do you see that being integrated with identity, with privacy and security, which is cousins of identity?
Yes, and that's something that we're actively building towards ourselves, is how do we make it, if you go to the club and the club is being able to leverage the identity that you have in your crypto wallet, how do you as Michelle say, yes, if I go to these clubs that are using this stuff, I only want to give them a red X or a green check mark that, yeah, this person come in or not. And this comes down to pure data access control on your own behalf. How do you have that privacy layer so that way you see your data flow being what it needs to be, or what's appropriate for those end companies that want to give you their products and services? And that's something that needs to be integrated into ID, and we're actively working on that ourselves.
Awesome. I wish it would be just as easy as real life, where we just put a black tape on certain information.
Yeah.
And then there's toggles where social media, but yet no one has actually created an ID system where we could control our information in that kind of way. I'm excited about that build. Is there anything that you wanted to share that I have not asked you?
I think we covered quite a lot here. And when I think about where the space is headed, it is up to the people who are building here and now. And I've said this before, but we need to be constantly in communication across the industry about these issues that you brought up today. And how do we educate the regulators? How do we educate the people that, sometimes have the life or death decision about technology like this? How do we make sure that they're making decisions that are going to further the industry and not stifle innovation, but still protect people that are here? It's a dialogue that needs to continue to happen across all the leaders in the space as we build and bring these brand new products with brand new technology, bleeding edge stuff to reality and to the consumer base.
When I attend these government conferences or conferences are held by the SEC or another government agency, I don't see a lot of industry leaders there. But if you go to conferences, everyone would love to talk about their project and show their coin and everything else. How do we fake that?
I think the industry is moving more towards collaboration with governments to really start this, because there are people that have the citizens of the countries in mind of their safety. And a lot of times, because the technology has moved so fast, the regulators have not been able to keep up with what's happening. I think the only real way we can fix this is whatever jurisdiction you're in, whatever country you're in, find who the people are that are actively looking into this and engage with them and say, hey, let's sit down and I'll walk you through how we're viewing the space and educate like how this works. There's a grassroots element to it of actively finding your people in your area that you can talk to. And then I think there needs to be the industry leaders coming together, maybe even to hold like a conference that's all around the regulatory environment, and invite all of these leaders from both the industry and the government side to attend and discuss these options. Because if there's no information sharing and if there's no willingness on both sides, then we're going to end up in these very segmented camps that aren't able to get done what needs to get done for the industry.
Awesome. One of my other questions is about stablecoins. I just feel like identity and KYC haven't been in the stablecoin space as it should be, maybe, depending on perspective. What are your views about identity and stablecoins, and how could we change that?
Right now, we're in this transitionary period of where we have digital cash, but it's not yet cryptocurrency. It's held in a lot of these centralized platforms that let you like cashback apps and things like that. For us to really start to on-ramp people, like individual consumers, into crypto natively, you do need to have this level of KYC and digital identity. I think Europe a couple of weeks ago just passed something around like if there's a transaction that's over €1,000, you need to have KYC. They're doing this anyway. How do we get the best on-ramps possible to go from these digital cash apps that we are pretty much already using in society to start on-ramping into these stable coins? And to do that, you need to know who's behind the wallet you're on-ramping into. And let's link the two together, because there really is that on-ramp period that needs to happen to start to transition people from digital cash equivalents to actual digital assets that are backed to the US dollar.
Does the company touch the DeFi space?
We are working heavily right now with several DeFi protocols. We're going to see a hybrid world going forward here, where there are going to be the open permissionless DeFi platforms. And then there are going to be these more permissioned KYC level stuff, whether it's like crypto credit or loans or what have you, that will have a layer of KYC. We're working with several of these people now, getting things integrated. What it really comes down to is, how do we start to get the space comfortable with KYC? Because it needs to happen. I don't think there's many people that want to see the growth of the space also say, no, there should not be KYC ever in the system, because sovereign wealth funds aren't going to start dumping into DeFi. How are we going to build these platforms so we can get the real liquidity in there and also make it safe to transact? That is what we're actively rolling out now. And this will only continue to become a thing, especially as regulation pressures start to mount.
I agree with you. What is one piece of advice you have for the community?
Yeah, I think the piece of advice is you are building now for the future. And everything that we're building, we need to be good shepherds of that vision of what Web3 is. And we might have different opinions and views of what that is, but we do need to work together to define what Web3 truly means and ensure that as we start to get traction in the markets, that we can really shape it to be what it needs to be. It does not become a repeat of what Web2 is today.
Awesome. Thank you, Ivan.
Hey, thank you, Michelle.
Bye-bye.